Hansel and Gretel by Roald Dahl. Mom said to Dad, "Those kids of ours, the food that each of them devours, that Hansel, cripes, that little tick, to watch him eat it makes me sick. And as for ghastly greedy Gretel, I'm turning round to boil the kettle, and while I'm at it she's been able to guzzle all that's on the table." The father merely shrugged and sighed. Mum waved her frying pan and cried, "My motto is that we come first. Them kids should always get the worst." Now look, if we could rub them out, there'd be more beans and sauerkraut, and stuff for you and me to eat. Mind you, we'd have to be discreet. The father said, "Well, what's to do? We can't just flush 'em down the loo." To which the mother answered, "No, they're much too big, they wouldn't go." "What if," the father said, "they fell, quite accidentally, down the well?" "Oh, no," Mum said. "I doubt we oughta. It might pollute the drinking water. I think it's better on the whole to take 'em for a little stroll and lose them in among the trees. Now, surely that's a better wheeze." "Let's do it," Dad cried out. "And then we'll never see the pigs again." "Walkies," the parents cried. "It's spring. Let's go and hear the birdies sing. Let's look for robins in the trees. Let's pick some wild anemones." Now, Hansel suddenly espies his mother's shrewd and shifty eyes. He whispers softly, "Listen, sis, I don't much like the smell of this. I think our loving mom and dad are plotting something rather bad. I think I'd better mark our track to help us on the journey back." So, on the walk, when outward bound, he scatters breadcrumbs on the ground. They walk all four for hours and hours. They see no robins, pick no flowers. The wood is dark and cold and bare, and Dad says, "Children, stay right here. Your mom and I have things to do. We'll see you later. Toodaloo." They sidled off with perfect ease and disappeared among the trees. "They're gonna dump us," Gretel cried. "They won't succeed," the boy replied. "We'll get back home. We cannot fail by following the breadcrumb trail. Just take my hand and come with me. We'll find our way. You wait and see." But oh, alas, where crumbs had been, there now was nothing to be seen. Young Gretel cried, "You silly twit! The crows have eaten every bit." Poor little children all alone, the foul and filthy parents flown. Poor little children all forlorn, to face the dismal murky morn. "We'll starve to death," young Hansel cried, when all at once the youth espied a funny little snow-white bird, who spoke as follows word for word: "Come follow me, you troubled things. I'll take you on my silver wings to safety, to a lovely place where you can live in peace and grace." This wondrous bird then led them forth for miles and miles towards the north, until at last there hove in sight a lovely cottage painted white. And there before the cottage door these two enraptured children saw a sweet old dame with rosy skin, who smiled and said, "Oh, do come in. You must be hungry little lambs." She fed them treacle heart tarts and hams, and sugar buns and gorgeous jam. The children cried, "Oh, thank you, ma'am." The woman with the rosy cheeks now smiles again and softly speaks, "My darling children, as you see, you eat extremely well with me." She then serves up the second treat, a very curious roast of meat, all sizzling hot and crispy brown. The happy children wolf it down. The hostess says, Do have some more. I doubt you've tasted this before. Young Hansel asks her, Is it lamb? Or is it beef? Or is it ham? Whatever it is, I must admit, it's awfully tender, isn't it? The woman said, This special meat is the only kind I like to eat. Then Gretel says, I'll make a bid. This meat is either goat or kid. The woman says, Well, no, and yes. I must say kid's a clever guess. She smiled and chewed and smiled, and looked so innocent and mild. As soon as they had left the table, the woman led them to a stable. Stable? They wondered, turning pale. The place looked like a sort of jail, with bars and bolts and horrid things, like manacles and iron rings. The woman said, Go in and look. It's such a cozy little nook. So Hansel, wanting to explore, went boldly through the open door. The woman quickly slammed it. Bang! The doors and locks and bolts went clang. Hey, let me out! Young Hansel cried. You stay in there, the dame replied. I'm going to feed you up a treat until you're fat enough to eat. The brothers Grimm, who wrote this story, made it 1,000 times more gory. I've taken out the foulest scene in order that you won't turn green. It is beyond me how it came to merit such enormous fame. Did parents really in those days agree to read such gruesome plays to little children in the night? And did they ever die of fright? It must have been okay, who knows, if there'd been humor in the prose. Did I say humor? Willem Grimm? Ugh, there's not a scrap of it in him. I'll cut the grisly ending short. But even so, I think I ought to tell you gently what came next. I'll make it brief, so don't be vexed. Just when the stove is nice and hot, and water's boiling in the pot, the pot's for boiling Hansel in, the stove for crisping up his skin, young Gretel in her pinafore flings open wide the oven door. The fire's going out, she cried. The woman pokes her head inside, and Gretel, with a springy jump, takes aim and kicks her on the rump. She totters forward, in she goes, head first and last of all her toes. Now Gretel, with a gleeful roar, slams shut the open oven door. The temperature inside, she sees, is just on 450 degrees, and soon this red-hot oven heat gives out the smell of roasting meat. The child runs fast as she is able to open up the prison stable. Hansel, she shouts, we're free at last. The foul old dame is roasting fast. Young Hansel cried, Oh, well done, you. Ah, what a splendid thing to do. But then again, you must admit, you always like to cook a bit.